Hey everyone. So today we're going to be looking at self-esteem.
Okay.
And you sent over this really interesting podcast episode from the
Yeah.
English Dialogue podcast. It's with Alex and Sarah, and they talk about 5 steps to boost confidence.
Okay.
Um, and one of the things that really stood out to me was how much they emphasize
Yeah.
the impact of our thoughts. Like that inner voice we all have.
Absolutely.
It can be so powerful.
Oh, yeah. It's fascinating how they kind of connect that inner dialogue to the concept of self-worth.
Yeah.
It's like the foundation of our confidence. If we don't believe in our own value,
Right.
it's hard to build real confidence.
Yeah, it's like trying to build a house on sand.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they talk about setting realistic goals, which I thought was a really good point.
Right.
They use this great example of public speaking.
Okay.
Like, instead of aiming for a stadium right away,
Yeah.
they suggest starting small,
Yeah.
like practicing in the mirror,
Uh-huh.
just breaking those big, intimidating goals
Right.
into smaller steps.
It's about progress over perfection, right?
Yes.
And I think that's a key point they make,
Yeah.
that celebrating those small wins can be incredibly motivating.
Totally.
Each step, even a tiny one,
Yeah.
it reinforces that sense of accomplishment,
Right.
keeps you moving forward.
Like, okay, maybe I'm not ready for a TED Talk,
Right.
but I nailed that presentation to my cat.
Exactly.
And then they go on to talk about Sarah,
Yeah.
one of the hosts, and how she discovered she was good at painting.
Uh-huh.
And that really boosted her self-esteem.
Right.
And it made me think about how often we get caught up
Yeah,
in what we're not good at,
totally.
that we forget to even acknowledge our strengths.
And what's interesting here is it's not just about recognizing your strengths,
Yeah.
but it's about actively shifting your focus towards them.
Right.
The podcast uses the word mindset,
Okay.
and I think that's a powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
When you focus on what you excel at,
Yeah,
it changes your whole perspective.
it does.
I'm curious, for you listening, what are some strengths that immediately come to mind for you?
Yeah.
What are you naturally drawn to?
Yeah, what are you good at?
Yeah.
It's almost like shining a spotlight
Uh-huh.
on the positive aspects of ourselves instead
Yeah.
of dwelling on the things that we
Yeah.
think we lack.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really valuable shift in perspective.
Yeah.
And then they talk about how we talk to ourselves,
Okay.
that inner voice.
Yeah.
It can be our biggest cheerleader or our harshest critic.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about replacing negative thoughts with positive ones,
Right.
which, I mean, it sounds simple,
Yeah.
but I imagine it takes a lot of practice.
It does. And that's where the concept of affirmations comes in.
Okay.
They highlight the power of repeating positive statements about yourself. It's like rewiring your thinking over time.
Yeah.
Think about it this way.
Okay.
If you keep telling yourself, I'm terrible at this,
Yeah.
you're more likely to believe it. But what if you consciously replace that with, I'm learning and I'm getting better?
Right.
That slight shift in language
Yeah.
can have a profound impact on your self-perception.
It's like choosing to be your own best friend instead of your own worst enemy.
Exactly.
And then they go on to talk about embracing failure
Oh,
as a learning opportunity,
interesting.
which to me at first sounds a little bit like toxic positivity.
I understand where you're coming from, but it's actually about developing resilience.
Okay.
They're not suggesting we ignore the sting of failure or pretend it doesn't hurt.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that setbacks are inevitable,
Yeah.
but they don't have to define us.
Okay.
In fact, they often teach us the most valuable lessons.
Yeah.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
Every time you fall, you learn something new about how to balance, how to get back up,
Uh-huh.
and how to approach the next challenge with more awareness.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So instead of seeing failure as a full stop,
Right.
it's more like a comma, a pause, a chance to reflect, and then keep going.
And that's what resilience is all about.
Okay.
It's about bouncing back, learning from our experiences, and using those lessons to grow stronger.
So I've got self-acceptance, setting realistic goals, focusing on strength, positive self-talk, and embracing failure.
Yeah. It's a great observation.
I'm already seeing how these steps kind of build on each other.
And it's interesting how they present these steps not as a quick fix, but as a continuous process.
Right.
Building self-esteem is a journey, not a destination.
Totally.
Wouldn't she?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like building any kind of strength.
Yeah.
It takes time, effort, consistent practice.
And it's like physical exercise, you know?
Yeah.
There are going to be days when it feels easier than others.
Yeah.
There will be times when those old negative thought patterns creep back in.
Of course.
But the key is to keep practicing.
Yeah.
Keep challenging those negative thoughts and keep reminding yourself of your worth.
So it's about building that mental muscle.
Yes.
But what happens when we hit those inevitable roadblocks?
Right.
How do we stay motivated when that self-doubt starts to creep in?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it brings us to a really important aspect of this journey,
Okay.
which Alex and Sarah discuss in detail.
I'm all ears. Give me all the good stuff.
It's all about building a supportive network,
Okay.
creating a circle of people who believe in you, encourage your growth,
Yeah.
offer a safe space to share your struggles.
Right.
This can be a game changer
Yeah.
when it comes to maintaining a healthy self-esteem,
For sure.
especially during those tougher times.
Makes me think about how our social connections can either uplift us or drain us.
Absolutely.
If we're constantly surrounded by negativity or criticism,
Right.
it's no wonder our self-esteem takes a hit.
It's like trying to bloom in a desert.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of surrounding yourself with people
Yeah.
who are like fertile soil for your growth.
I love that.
People who water your strengths, provide sunshine through encouragement,
Right.
and help you weather any storms.
So how do we cultivate that kind of supportive network?
Okay.
How do we identify those people who will truly champion our growth?
Well, Alex and Sarah offer some really helpful advice on this front.
Okay.
They suggest looking for people who embody certain qualities.
Okay.
For example, someone who listens without judgment.
Yeah.
Offering a safe space for you to express yourself without fear of criticism.
I think that's a big one.
That's huge, right?
Yeah.
Having someone who truly hears you without jumping in to fix you
Right.
or offer unsolicited advice
Yeah.
can be so validating.
Yeah, like they get you.
Right.
And that in itself can be a huge confidence booster.
Absolutely.
What else do they suggest we look for?
They also talk about seeking out people who offer encouragement and support.
Yeah.
These are your cheerleaders,
Okay.
the ones who celebrate your wins big or small,
Yeah.
offer a shoulder to lean on during challenging times.
I'm picturing a group hug confetti, maybe a few happy tears.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
What else? They also emphasize finding people who inspire you to grow,
Okay.
who challenge you to step outside your comfort zone and pursue your goals.
Yeah.
But here's the key.
Okay.
They do it while respecting your boundaries and pace.
Okay.
It's not about pushing you beyond your limits,
Right.
but about gently nudging you towards your full potential.
So it's about finding those people who believe in you,
Yeah.
even when you don't quite believe in yourself yet.
Yeah.
Those who can hold a vision for you
Yeah.
until you're ready to see it for yourself.
Exactly. And it's not just about receiving support, it's about giving it too.
Right.
When we contribute to the well-being of others,
Yeah.
it can boost our own sense of self-worth and purpose.
It can.
It's a beautiful cycle of reciprocity.
It's like we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
Each of us holding a piece of the puzzle
Right.
that helps somebody else complete their picture.
Beautiful.
But what about those times when we feel like we don't have that strong support system?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And it's something they address with sensitivity and practicality. They acknowledge that not everyone has a readily available network of supportive individuals.
Right.
And that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're doomed to struggle alone.
Right.
They offer alternative strategies
Right.
for cultivating a sense of belonging and connection.
Likewise.
One suggestion is to consider joining groups or communities that align with your interests.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So that could be anything from a book club to a hiking group
Yeah,
to an online forum
absolutely.
dedicated to a shared passion.
It's about finding your tribe,
Yeah.
connecting with people who share your interests.
Yes.
And building relationships based on shared values and experiences.
What other alternatives do they suggest?
They also talk about the power of seeking out mentors or role models who inspire you.
Okay.
These individuals can provide guidance, support, a sense of direction,
Yeah.
even if they're not physically present in your life. You can connect with mentors through formal programs, online communities,
Right.
or even by learning from the experiences of others through books, podcasts, documentaries.
It's like having a virtual cheering section.
Yeah,
A team of wise guides who've walked the path before you
exactly.
and can offer valuable insights and encouragement along the way.
And another suggestion they offer is to consider volunteering or engaging in acts of service.
Okay.
Contributing to a cause you care about
Yeah.
can foster a sense of purpose and connection to something larger than yourself.
I love how they provide options for different personalities and circumstances.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that building a supportive network doesn't have to look the same for everyone.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and being proactive in creating connections
Right.
that nurture your well-being.
I feel like we've covered so much ground already.
Yeah. It's exciting.
We've gone from self-acceptance to setting realistic goals,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on strengths,
Yeah.
embracing failure, and now building a supportive network.
For weaving a tapestry of self-esteem.
And each thread adds strength and beauty to the overall design.
Thread by thread.
But I think it's important to remember that this tapestry isn't woven overnight.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It takes time, patience,
Yeah.
and a willingness to keep adding those threads even when it feels challenging.
So it's an ongoing process.
It is.
A work in progress.
And that's okay.
Yeah, but there's one piece I'm still curious about.
Okay.
They mention the importance of celebrating even the smallest victories.
Yes.
Why is that so crucial for building self-esteem?
That's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And it brings us to an often overlooked but incredibly important aspect of this journey,
Okay.
recognizing and honoring our progress.
You mean like taking a moment to acknowledge those small wins
Exactly.
instead of just rushing on to the next thing on the to-do list?
It's so easy to get caught up in striving for that next big goal
Right.
that we forget to appreciate the small steps that get us there.
But those small victories are like breadcrumbs leading us along the path.
Okay.
They mark our progress and remind us of how far we've come.
It makes me think about when I first started running.
Uh-huh.
I could barely make it around the block without wanting to collapse.
Oh, wow.
But each time I pushed myself a little further,
Yeah.
I made sure to acknowledge that effort, that small victory.
Right.
And eventually those small victories added up to being able to run a 5K,
That's amazing.
which felt amazing.
Good for you.
And that sense of accomplishment, it fuels your motivation to keep going.
Absolutely. It reinforces your belief in yourself and your ability to achieve your goals.
Totally.
It's like building momentum.
Yeah.
One small win at a time.
So how do we do that?
Yeah.
Do we need to throw a party every time we check something off our list?
Uh-huh. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's about finding what feels authentic and meaningful to you.
Okay.
It could be as simple as taking a moment to acknowledge your accomplishment
Yeah.
and savor the feeling of pride.
Like a silent fist pump or a mental high five.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you could share your win with someone supportive
Yeah.
and bask in their encouragement.
Right.
Or even treat yourself to something enjoyable.
Like a relaxing bubble bath, a delicious meal, or an hour with a good book.
I'm on board with all of those.
Me too.
It's about recognizing your efforts and rewarding yourself for the progress you're making,
Yeah.
no matter how small it may seem.
Right.
Those small celebrations can have a cumulative effect,
Yeah.
creating a positive feedback loop that reinforces your belief in yourself
Okay.
and your ability to achieve your goals.
So it's like we're training ourselves to focus on the positive, to celebrate our wins,
Yeah.
and to approach this journey with a sense of kindness and self-compassion.
And that self-compassion is so essential,
It is.
especially when we face setbacks or challenges.
Right.
It's about being our own best friend,
Yeah.
offering ourselves the same understanding and support we
Right.
would offer to a loved one.
It's like being the cheerleader for our own lives.
Exactly. And that kind of self-support
Yeah.
can make all the difference in our ability to navigate the ups and downs of life with
Okay.
grace and resilience.
This has been such an insightful exploration.
It has.
We've covered so much ground,
We have.
from self-acceptance and goal setting
Uh-huh.
to building a supportive network
Mm-hmm.
and celebrating our progress.
All right.
It's like we're starting to piece together a roadmap
I like that.
for building a stronger, more resilient sense of self.
And we're only just beginning to uncover the wisdom
I know.
that Alex and Sarah share in their podcast.
Can't wait to dig in some more.
They delve even deeper into the nuances of self-esteem,
Okay.
offering valuable insights on overcoming setbacks,
Yeah.
managing negative self-talk, and cultivating a resilient mindset.
I am so ready for part 2.
I am too.
Yes.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about celebrating those small victories,
Right.
you know, those little wins that often get overlooked.
Yeah.
But they're so crucial for building momentum
Absolutely.
on this self-esteem journey.
And I think it's a perfect segue into this next topic,
Okay.
because those little celebrations can really help
Yeah.
when we encounter setbacks, which, let's face it, are gonna happen.
Yeah.
Even with all the self-acceptance and positive self-talk in the world,
Right.
we're bound to hit bumps in the road.
You're absolutely right. And what I appreciate about Alex and Sarah's approach
Yeah.
is they acknowledge this reality.
Yeah.
They don't sugarcoat it or pretend that building self-esteem
Right.
is a smooth, linear process.
Yeah.
They acknowledge that setbacks are a part of life,
Okay.
and they offer some really practical advice for navigating those challenges.
So spill the tea.
Hmm.
What's their secret sauce for dealing with those moments
Right.
when we feel like we've taken 2 steps back instead of forward?
One of the key points they make is that setbacks are not a reflection of our worth.
Okay.
It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking, I failed, therefore I am a failure. But they encourage a different perspective,
Oh, it's
viewing setbacks as opportunities for learning and growth.
So instead of beating ourselves up,
Yeah.
we can ask, okay, what can I learn from this?
Exactly.
How can I do things differently next time?
They talk about shifting from a fixed mindset,
Okay.
where we see our abilities as set in stone, to
Oh.
a growth mindset,
Okay.
where we embrace challenges as opportunities for development.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we're not perfect.
Right.
We're all works in progress, and that's okay.
I love that. It's like giving ourselves permission to be human,
Yes,
to mess up, to learn,
We
and to keep
won't.
growing.
exactly.
But I imagine that even with a growth mindset,
Yeah,
those negative thoughts can still creep in after a setback.
they absolutely can. And Alex and Sarah offer some great strategies for dealing with those negative thought patterns.
Come to me.
One technique they suggest is to challenge those negative thoughts.
Okay.
Instead of just accepting them as truth,
Uh-huh.
we can put them on trial, so to speak.
Ooh, I like that. Cross-examine those negative thoughts.
Right.
So how would we go about doing that?
Well, you can start by asking yourself some questions.
Okay.
Are those negative thoughts really true? Are they based on facts, or are they just assumptions or fears?
Right.
And are those thoughts helpful?
Good point.
Are they moving you towards your goals, or are they holding you back?
It's like holding those thoughts up to a mirror and really seeing them for what they are.
Exactly. And often when we examine those thoughts more closely, we
Mhm.
realize they're based on old patterns, past experiences,
Right.
or limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
not on objective reality.
So once we've challenged those negative thoughts and hopefully debunked some of their claims,
Right.
what do we do with that space?
Okay.
I'm guessing this is where positive self-talk comes back into play.
You are right on the money.
Ah, okay.
They encourage us to reframe those negative thoughts
Yeah.
with more positive and realistic ones.
Okay.
For example, instead of saying, I'm never going to be good at this,
Right.
we can try saying, this is challenging, but I'm learning and growing from each experience.
It's about shifting the focus from our perceived limitations to our potential for growth.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective can make all the difference
Right.
in how we approach challenges, setbacks, and even our everyday lives.
You know what I really appreciate about this whole
Right.
approach
Yeah.
is that it acknowledges that building self-esteem
Mhm.
isn't a one-and-done thing.
Right.
It's an ongoing process
It is.
that involves our thoughts, our behaviors,
Yeah.
and even our physical and emotional well-being.
You've hit on a really important point there.
Oh.
And it's something that Alex and Sarah emphasize as well.
Yeah.
They talk about the importance of self-care
Yeah.
and stress management as essential components of building and maintaining
Okay.
healthy self-esteem.
So explain that connection for me. How does taking care of ourselves physically and emotionally
Okay.
tie into building self-esteem?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
When we're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or depleted,
Right.
it's much harder to maintain a positive self-image
Yeah.
and navigate challenges effectively.
Yeah.
It's like trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach.
Ooh, I've been there. Running on fumes, both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Not pretty. So what kind of self-care practices are they suggesting?
Okay.
Give me all the tips.
They recommend incorporating things like mindfulness practices,
Okay.
regular exercise, getting enough sleep, and spending time in nature.
I love all of those things.
Right. These activities can help reduce stress, improve our mood, and boost our resilience.
It's like putting on our own oxygen mask first before helping others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to take care of ourselves so we can show up as our best selves.
And they also talk about the importance of seeking support when we need it.
Yes.
Right.
They remind us that we don't have to go through tough times alone.
Okay.
Reaching out to a friend, family member, therapist, or support group can make a world of difference.
Having someone to talk to, someone who listens and understands, can be such a lifeline, especially during those times when we're struggling with self-doubt or feeling overwhelmed.
It's like having a co-pilot on this self-esteem journey.
I love that analogy.
Right.
So this whole conversation is making me think about how our self-esteem develops in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, where do those initial beliefs about ourselves come from?
That's a great question. And it's something that Alex and Sarah touch upon in their podcast.
Okay.
They talk about how our early experiences,
Yeah.
especially those we have in childhood,
Right.
can play a significant role in shaping our self-perceptions.
So like messages we receive from parents, teachers, peers,
Yes,
even society at large,
absolutely.
can leave a lasting imprint on how we see ourselves.
Those early experiences can create patterns of thinking and behaving
Wow.
that we carry with us into adulthood.
Yeah.
And sometimes those patterns can be helpful and supportive,
Right.
but other times they can be limiting and even harmful to our self-esteem.
So it's not just about what we're telling ourselves in the present moment.
Right.
It's also about recognizing
Yeah,
how our past experiences might be influencing our current self-perception.
precisely. And that awareness can be incredibly empowering.
Yeah?
It allows us to examine those old ingrained beliefs,
Right.
challenge those that aren't serving us,
Okay.
and create new, more positive narratives about ourselves.
It's like rewriting the script of our lives.
Yes.
Identifying the limiting beliefs that no longer serve us.
Right.
And replacing them with beliefs that empower us to grow and thrive.
Exactly. And while we can't change the past,
Yeah.
we can choose how we interpret those experiences and how we allow them to shape our present and future.
I love that this whole conversation is making me realize
Yeah.
that building self-esteem isn't just a nice to have.
Right.
It's essential for living a fulfilling and meaningful life.
It's true. It's the foundation for pursuing our goals,
Yeah.
building healthy relationships, and navigating challenges with resilience and grace.
We've covered so much ground already, but I know there's still more to uncover.
There is.
What other insights do Alex and Sarah offer on this journey of building self-esteem?
They go on to explore a number of important topics.
Okay.
Things like the importance of setting healthy boundaries,
Okay.
identifying and challenging those negative self-talk patterns we discussed earlier,
Yeah.
and even embracing vulnerability as a strength.
That last one really intrigues me.
Yeah.
Embracing vulnerability as a strength.
Yeah,
It seems a bit counterintuitive,
it does.
especially when we're talking about building confidence.
Right.
How do they connect those two concepts?
It's a fascinating connection.
Yeah.
And I think they make some really compelling points.
Okay.
They point out that often we try to protect our self-esteem by hiding our perceived flaws and vulnerability from others.
Yeah.
It's like we're afraid that if people see our imperfections,
Right.
they'll think less of us.
I think we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Putting on a brave face and trying to project this image of perfection. But it can be so exhausting.
It absolutely can be. And what Alex and Sarah suggest
Yeah.
is that true confidence comes from accepting and embracing our whole selves,
All right.
imperfections and all.
So instead of trying to present a perfect facade,
Yeah.
we allow ourselves to be seen even with our flaws.
Yes.
Our quirks and our methy humanness.
Exactly. And what they point out
Yeah.
is that when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable,
Okay.
we open ourselves up to deeper connection
Yeah.
and authenticity in our relationships.
It's like saying, this is me, take it or leave it.
Right.
And that kind of radical self-acceptance can be so powerful.
It's incredibly powerful because when we're comfortable in our own skin,
Right.
warts and all,
Yeah.
it creates a sense of ease and confidence that others find magnetic.
So it's not about pretending to be perfect.
Right.
It's about embracing our imperfections as part of what makes us unique and lovable.
Exactly. And that kind of self-love and acceptance
Yeah.
is a powerful foundation for building genuine and lasting self-esteem.
Oh, I love how this conversation keeps circling back to the theme of authenticity.
Me too.
It's not about trying to fit into some mold of what we think we should be.
Right.
It's about embracing who we truly are,
Yeah.
flaws and all, which makes me think about how we interact with others
Okay.
and how setting healthy boundaries plays into this whole self-esteem equation.
That's a great segue. And
Yeah.
it's something Alex and Sarah address with a lot of insight.
Okay.
They point out that when we have strong self-esteem,
Yeah.
we're better equipped to set and maintain healthy boundaries in our relationships.
That makes a lot of sense. When we value ourselves,
Yeah.
we're more likely to recognize when our needs aren't being met
Uh-huh.
or when our boundaries are being crossed.
Exactly. And we're more likely to assert those needs and protect our well-being.
Right.
On the flip side, people with low self-esteem
Okay.
often find themselves in situations where they're being taken advantage of
Yeah.
or treated poorly. It's like they don't feel worthy of setting those boundaries or having their needs respected.
So setting boundaries is a way of honoring ourselves.
Yes,
And communicating to others how we deserve to be treated.
precisely. It's about recognizing that our needs and feelings are just as important as anyone else's
Right.
and having the courage to advocate for ourselves.
But I imagine that setting boundaries can be challenging.
It can be,
especially if we're used to people-pleasing or putting others' needs before our own.
You're right. It can be tough at first, especially if it's not something we're used to doing.
Right.
But Alex and Sarah offer some really practical advice
Okay.
on how to set those boundaries in a clear, assertive, and respectful way.
Give me the rundown. What are their top tips?
They suggest starting by identifying your non-negotiables,
Okay.
things that are absolutely essential for your well-being.
So like the values, behaviors, and situations that you're absolutely not willing to compromise on.
Exactly. It's like drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is what I stand for.
I love that.
This is how I deserve to be treated.
Okay, so once we've identified our non-negotiables, what's next?
Then it's about communicating those boundaries to others
Okay.
in a clear and assertive way.
Okay.
And they offer some helpful tips on how to do that effectively.
Like what kind of language should we use?
Okay.
What if the other person pushes back?
They emphasize the importance of remaining calm and respectful,
Okay.
even when faced with resistance.
Yeah.
They suggest using I statements to express your needs and boundaries
Okay.
without blaming or attacking the other person.
So instead of saying, you're always making me feel uncomfortable,
Right.
we could try saying, I feel uncomfortable when you do this.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your feelings
Right.
and communicating them in a way that invites understanding rather than defensiveness.
That's so helpful.
Right.
I think sometimes we shy away from setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Because we're afraid of conflict or hurting someone's feelings.
Right.
But it's actually about protecting ourselves and creating healthy, respectful relationships.
You're absolutely right. And Alex and Sarah make another really important point
Okay.
about setting boundaries.
What's that?
They emphasize the importance of consistency.
Okay.
Setting boundaries is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time conversation.
Right.
It's about consistently communicating your needs and expectations
Yeah.
and holding firm to those boundaries,
Okay.
even when it's challenging.
It's like building a muscle, right?
Exactly.
The more we practice setting those boundaries,
Yeah.
the stronger and more confident we become
Yes.
in asserting our needs and protecting our well-being.
And that confidence spills over into all areas of our lives,
It does.
reinforcing our sense of self-worth and empowering us to create
Yeah.
healthier and more fulfilling relationships.
This is making me see how setting boundaries is really an act of self-love and self-respect.
It is.
It's about recognizing our worth
Yes.
and creating a life that reflects those values.
And that self-respect is a cornerstone of genuine and lasting self-esteem.
We've covered so much ground today,
We have.
from self-acceptance and goal setting to building a supportive network and embracing vulnerability,
Right.
and now setting those healthy boundaries.
It's like we're piecing together a blueprint
Yeah.
for building a stronger, more resilient sense of self.
And we're doing it with the guidance of two incredible experts,
They are.
Alex and Sarah. Their insights and practical advice have been so valuable,
They have.
and I know there's still more to come.
There is.
But for now, we'll pause
Okay.
and give you, our listener, a moment to reflect on what we've discussed so far.
So good.
Think about which of these strategies resonates most with you,
Yeah.
and consider what small steps you might take
Okay.
to incorporate these ideas into your own life.
Hmm.
We'll be right back
Okay.
to continue this exploration of self-esteem. Welcome back. We've been having such an interesting conversation about self-esteem,
We have.
and I feel like we've covered so much ground already.
Yeah.
But there's this one piece of the puzzle that we haven't really explored in depth yet,
What's that?
and that's the whole idea of negative self-talk.
That's a great point. And it's something that Alex and Sarah really emphasize in their podcast.
Right?
They talk about negative self-talk as being one of the biggest obstacles
Yeah.
to building and maintaining healthy self-esteem.
It's like a constant stream of criticism
Yeah.
that can really chip away at our confidence.
Yeah, from the inside out.
It's that voice in our head that tells us we're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough.
Mhm.
And it can be so sneaky.
It can. Sometimes we don't even realize we're engaging in negative self-talk
Yeah.
until it's already taken root and started to affect our mood, our behavior, even
agree.
our relationship.
Absolutely. It often operates on an unconscious level,
It does.
which makes it even more insidious.
Right.
But the good news is,
Yes.
once we become aware of those negative thought patterns,
Mhm.
we can start to challenge them and
Yeah.
replace them with more positive and supportive self-talk.
Ab-
Okay, so awareness is the first step.
Right.
But then what are some strategies for actually dealing with those negative thoughts
Oh.
once we've identified them?
Yeah.
Because I think we all know how easy it is
Yeah.
to get stuck in those negative thought loops.
We do. Alex and Sarah offer a really powerful technique called thought challenging.
Oh.
It's basically about putting those negative thoughts on trial
Ooh, would love that.
and examining the evidence
Yeah.
to see if they're actually true and helpful.
So it's like we're in a courtroom,
Yes.
cross-examining those negative thoughts,
Right.
demanding to see the proof.
Right.
Tell me more. How does this thought-challenging process work?
Well, you can start by asking yourself some key questions.
Okay.
For example, is this thought really true?
Okay.
Often our negative thoughts are based on distortions, assumptions, or old beliefs
Right.
that may not reflect reality.
So we need to dig deeper and ask, what's the evidence to support this thought?
Exactly.
Is it based on facts or just my fears and insecurities?
And another helpful question is this thought helpful?
Right.
Is it serving me in any way?
Good questions.
Often our negative thoughts are just keeping us stuck
Yeah.
in old patterns and preventing us from moving forward.
It's like they're weighing us down, holding us back from reaching our full potential.
Precisely. So the goal of thought challenging
Yeah.
is to identify those negative thoughts,
Yeah.
question their validity and usefulness,
Right.
and then replace them with more positive and empowering thoughts.
So instead of saying, I am a failure because I didn't get that promotion,
Right.
we might try saying, I'm disappointed that things didn't work out this time,
Uh-huh.
but I'm proud of the effort I put in, and I'm confident that I'll learn from this experience
Yeah,
and keep growing.
that's a great example.
Okay.
You've taken a negative thought and reframed it
Yeah.
into a more balanced and constructive statement.
Okay.
It's about shifting our perspective from self-criticism to self-compassion.
It's like choosing to be on our own side, to be
Yeah.
our own best advocate. But this whole thought-challenging process takes practice, right?
It does. It's not like we can just flip a switch
Yeah.
and suddenly be free of negative self-talk.
Right.
It's a skill that we develop over time with consistent practice.
Okay.
And Alex and Sarah acknowledge that
Yeah.
they emphasize that managing negative self-talk is an ongoing process.
Okay.
It's not about eradicating negative thoughts altogether,
Right.
but about learning to recognize them, challenge them,
Yeah.
and choose to focus on more positive and realistic thoughts.
So it's like training our minds to be more kind and supportive of ourselves.
Exactly. And that kind of self-compassion is so powerful.
It is.
It can really transform our relationship with ourselves
Yeah.
and help us to build a stronger, more resilient sense of self.
This has been such a fascinating conversation.
It has been.
We've gone from self-acceptance and goal setting
Uh-huh.
to building a supportive network, embracing vulnerability,
Right.
setting boundaries, and now challenging negative self-talk. It's like we've been given this whole toolkit
A toolkit.
for building and maintaining healthy self-esteem.
And what's so wonderful about this toolkit
I know.
is that it's filled with practical strategies
Right.
that we can start using today.
Exactly. These aren't just abstract concepts. These are
Mhm.
actionable steps that we can take
Yeah.
to cultivate a more positive and empowering relationship with ourselves.
And it's important to remember that building self-esteem is a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely.
There will be ups and downs, setbacks and triumphs along the way.
Right.
But the key is to keep moving forward
Yeah.
one step at a time.
One step at a time.
With compassion, courage, and a willingness to learn and grow.
And to celebrate those wins, both big and small, along the way.
Absolutely. Those celebrations are like fuel for our journey.
Right.
They remind us of how far we've come
Yes.
and inspire us to keep going.
I'm feeling so inspired to put all of this wisdom into practice.
Me too.
And I hope our listeners are feeling the same way.
It's been a pleasure exploring these important themes with you.
It has.
And we're so grateful to Alex and Sarah for sharing their insights and expertise with us.
Absolutely. Before we say goodbye, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice about self-esteem,
Yeah.
what would it be? What words of wisdom would have made the biggest difference for you on your journey?
That's a beautiful question.
I know.
And I think reflecting on that question can offer us so much clarity and insight into our own journeys.
It's a reminder that we're all in this together,
We are.
learning and growing along the way.
And that even though the journey might be challenging at times,
Yeah.
it's ultimately a journey worth taking.
Because when we invest in our self-esteem,
Uh-huh.
we're investing in our overall well-being,
Right.
our relationships, and our ability to live a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of self-esteem.
Yes, thank you for listening.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and tools
Yeah.
to support you on your own journey.
And remember, you are worthy, you are capable, and you are enough.